here in Chrisfield. Didn't have to travel for this one. Billy Lee Cox, come down to see us in our home here in Chrisfield. We have some work to do with him. He's a associate of ours in the Funky Seagull teaching videos. And we're going to interview him for the Gazette and do a little bit of finishing up work on the upcoming beginner bluegrass banjo tape and CD-ROM. So this is great. He come down Crab Derby weekend, and here we are in our living room, and we'll do an interview with a really great. I use this word sincerely, a world-class banjo player. Billy, it's so great to have you here again.
Thanks again.
And thanks for coming by and bringing your deer and banjo by. I'd like to talk a little bit about your life as a banjo player. And I know you were a national banjo champion.
That's correct.
And it's a hat you still wear proudly, I know that. You've played with all of the greats. And you played at the Eastern Shore Opry for us.
Oh yes, that was probably one of the greatest shows we were ever a part of.
It was a memorable night.
It was.
People were really into that, shall we say. That was a great show. But I'd like to share with our audience around the world a little bit about Billy Lee, as they say, up close and personal.
Sure.
Where are you from originally? I believe it's Delaware, isn't it?
That's where I'm from originally, that's correct.
And your early years as a banjo picker. And then I'd like to talk about the way you handle this great instrument. We were picking a little bit with Billy before we started filming, and we weren't doing bluegrass tunes or old time tunes. We were playing the blues, and in the key of E, and the music that was coming out of this banjo blew me away. And I'd like to talk about the techniques and what somebody who would say, geez, I'd like to do stuff like that.
Right.
The road that gets you there.
Sure.
The hours of practice and the touch and the technique. It's a wonderful road, as we all know, but let's share it a little bit. Where did you start? How did you get interested in this wonderful instrument?
Well, I had such a love for the music that I used to hear. When I was a young boy, 5, 6 years old, we had these country dances that my uncle, who was a banjo player, would play at. And I would go sit under the stage at this early age and just look up at him the whole evening, watching him play this great instrument, the banjo. And I said, someday I want to be able to stand up on that stage and play the banjo. I had such a love for the music ever since I can remember, especially the banjo. So I guess I was about 11 years old, and my parents got me a guitar. And I learned the chords on the guitar and got started on that. And my uncle went out and he bought a brand new Gibson banjo, and he had an old Silvertone, had a busted head on it and everything. You could stick your hand right up inside of it. Strings set up about 3 inches high.
That was Sears, right? Sears was Silvertone, yeah.
Are we allowed to advertise?
Sure, why not? They sold tens of thousands.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
And it had guitar pegs on one side of it. It was really thrown together. But my uncle told me, he said, look, if you'll learn to play this banjo, I'll give it to you. Well, he could have offered me $1 million. I'd have taken the banjo right then. I mean, because that was the instrument I wanted. Well, in a matter of a few months, I picked it up and just started trying to get the roll down like he had, the piece of the roll that he had. And in just a few months, I guess I got a little bit better than he was on the banjo. I surprised myself, but I had such a love for it and I had listened to so much. And I think that's the important thing, Pat. You had asked about, the different styles of music that we play and how do you get into it. I think you have to get it inside of you first. You hear it, you listen to all kinds of different types of music, and it sinks in. It's there, it's inside of you, but you have to listen to it first. And I had all this music in me. I would listen to Jerry Lee Lewis on the piano. A lot of people say, well, you don't play a bluegrass banjo. And I said, well, I play the banjo. That's what I love to do, is play the banjo. And every once in a while you might hear a Jerry Lee Lewis piano lick that I'll do on there, because I love that too. But I had that music inside me. And that was so crucial when I wanted to develop my own style. I mean, starting out, I'd listen to Earl Scruggs all the time, and was starting with Earl and getting his roll down. And I would take a line at a time on those old record players and slow it down. And
that's when they used to have 3 speeds on the
3
record player,
speeds.
right?
I think it was
Yeah.
17 and a half or something, 16 or something like
Yeah.
that. Well, I'd slow that line down. I wore many a record out slowing those things down, and I'd learn a line at a time. And that's how I'd go. But it was hour after hour, and I can still remember Mom and Dad saying, "Close that door."
You sound like me and my son. I told Patrick when he was 16, 15, you learn to play this thing, you can have it. And that's the last I ever had my Wildwood banjo.
Right.
Now it's his,
Hey,
you know. So
that's the way it works.
sometimes the challenge
Oh,
to a young person with the music inside.
Well, I always had that music, that love for the music. I mean, and especially the banjo. So we went on, and I was learning the Earl Scruggs stuff, and then all of a sudden I was out to my uncle's one day, and he had switched over and started playing guitar so I could play the banjo with him. And I heard a Don Reno record out there, and when I put that Don Reno record on, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. It sounded like he was putting so many more notes in. No offense to Earl, but to me it sounded like he was putting more notes in than Earl was, a lot more. And I said, boy, that is what I want to do. And I started trying to learn the Don Reno style, and with no other teachers around, I said, it sounds like he's using 4 fingers, so I'm going to try to use 4 fingers instead of 3, you know, because that's what it sounds like.
You actually went through that?
I tried that, because I didn't know any better. I was asking everyone I knew. I said, well, is he using 4 picks? And no one had seen Don, and they said, well, I don't know. Maybe he is. It sounds like it. So I tried with 4, and I couldn't do anything. So all of a sudden, I sat down, and I learned one of Don's songs with 3 fingers. And I was able to get a lot of the notes that he was getting. And but it was just hour after hour and hour. But I listened to all the banjo players. I mean, I can't say, you know, I love Don Reno, but I would put on a Sonny Osborne. I'll never forget, I spent months trying to get one lick that Sonny did. And I would get so frustrated because I couldn't get this lick. And I'd put the banjo in a case, walk away from it, go get a glass iced tea, come back and try it again. And then all of a sudden, about 3 months later, I picked the banjo up one day and did the lick just like that. I had the tune in my head of how that lick went. And but I guess what I'm saying is, don't just listen to one person. You say, well, I might like him the best, or I might like them the best. Well, you might like them the best, but learn it all. That way, you know, and don't just listen to bluegrass. You know, listen to other instruments also. I mean, you'll hear me do some stuff like pedal steel sound. And
now that's control, folks.
but you know, I would listen to Buck Owens, and I'd hear that great steel guitar on there, and I love that sound too. I said, well, maybe I can do that on the banjo, and I just take it, and I just figured it out how to do that. You know, try to listen to how they did. And like we were playing the blues earlier, you know, I listened to blues music and just the notes that were in there.
Now you just opened the door for me.
Yeah,
Hold on just 1 minute.
That wasn't even scripted.
We were sitting here. Patrick had his Dobro 33H steel body guitar. I had my 12-inch tubaphone tenor banjo. And Billy Lee had his beautiful Deering. And we started playing blues tunes in D minor, in E. And I'm watching this man play this banjo. And it's like we have been playing this all our lives together. The licks just blended in. It all came in. And the control coming in and out, taking the lead, back and off. And that's the great thing about music. If everybody knows the basics of what they're doing,
That's right.
everything fits together because it's a universal language.
Oh, it is.
And we sat here for 45 minutes and shared without saying a word. Just playing the music that's inside of us, our own way, and blending it in. Man, is that great. Is that a great thing to do?
Well, let me tell you a little story here, if I may. When I was in the service, I started a little band. We were stationed in Taiwan, and we started a little band there. And then they had this big contest for all the Pacific Air Force. And our band won the Taiwan championship there. And then they flew us to Tokyo to play up there for the whole Pacific finals. And we went to a music store up there, and the guitar player in the band and myself, and we went up and I asked them, you know, without being able to speak their language, I said, can we play the banjo and the guitar? And they said, oh, go ahead. So we started playing, and immediately about 25 or 30 people just came right in the room where we were. and they asked if we would be the featured guest at a bluegrass concert that they were having. Well, we said sure. You know, we fit it in our schedule while we were there, and we walked into the place, and there was thousands of people. Thousands of people.
Your first stadium gig, huh?
I mean, to tell you, it was absolutely incredible, and how much the people loved it. And we were the featured band that night. But even though none of them could speak with me, they had one or two people that would come up and speak English. But it was, like you say, it crosses all the language barriers.
Yes.
And race barriers and everything. I mean, I've sat and jammed with all types of people from different nationalities, and it's just great because it is a universal language, this instrument. Well, any instrument. I mean, you just go out and play, and you can make friends anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world.
Yes. There was a Peanuts cartoon years ago, and I think it was Charlie Brown and Linus, and one of them said, I think it was Charlie Brown said he believed that every baby should be issued a banjo when they're born because it's impossible to play the banjo and not be happy.
That's the truth.
And, well, doesn't Anita, your lovely wife, call it the happy instrument?
She does. Every time she hears the banjo, she calls it the happy music, and that's the happy instrument. You know, she just loves the sound of the banjo.
Yeah.
And it's just nothing but fond memories.
And it's kind of a universal thing. People do really, they're attracted to it.
Sure.
It's a wonderful thing.
And you know, you don't have to limit it to just bluegrass music. That's the neat thing.
No, well, blues, country.
Blues, exactly.
Rock and roll if you want.
I went over in New Jersey one night with a mandolin player and that was playing in my band several years ago. And we went over and we were playing with this band that, this fellow that was used to play with the Leonard Skinner band. And we were playing some pretty hard rock. Yeah. I mean,
because after all, no matter what kind of music you're playing, a C chord is a
C chord,
and a G chord is
a G chord.
And if you know the beat, well, we interviewed Al Petaway for our winter edition, I believe, and him and his wife, they did a song. I think it was in 13/8 time, and. You know, if you know a little bit of music theory, that means the 8th note gets the beat, and there's 13 of them in the measure. Well, it was like, but then once you sat and you started listening to it, okay, I can feel that now. You get into it, and when they said it's going to be in 13/8, even though I'd never played in that and I'd never heard anything in it, immediately in my mind I knew what to expect.
Exactly.
Because you know the language.
Oh yeah.
And
well, you know, it's interesting. When I was a young boy. And I'd go out to my uncle's to practice with him. He'd have the guitar, and sometimes we'd have another guy with a fiddle or something come over, and we would ride out. We'd have to go to the store or something, and my cousin would be with me, and my uncle. And of course, I was a pretty young boy, 11, 12 years old. And as we're riding down the road listening to the Grand Ole Opry, they say, okay, you tell me when you hear the chord changes in the songs. And that taught me how to recognize that, oh, I have to change chords there.
It's like driving a car.
Oh, it was. It was. And that was a big help for me. You know, my uncle, even though he didn't know the theory of the music, some of the things he taught me was so great. Like he said one time, he said, I think if you play out of the positions of chords, he said, you can find about any note you need to play in there. Boy, that was a revelation to me. He had no idea the impact that
had. And 90% true, isn't it?
Yes, yes, it is. Tremendous, absolutely tremendous.
So if you know the timing you're in, if you know the key signature,
exactly.
And well, if you're a frailing banjo player, if you know your basic strum, if you're a 3-finger player, if you know your basic rolls, you can do what?
Play anything,
anywhere,
with
anybody,
any type of music.
Yeah,
and you know, that's. Like this new video that we just are putting out, the instructional video. It's for beginner banjos. It's so exciting to me that we're going to be able to reach out to people who may have had a banjo under the bed for years and say, well, what am I going to do with this? Well, I truly believe that we can get people started on it and really get them to where they can play some songs. And I'll tell you, once you start playing, everyone wants to go and play with somebody else or get in a jam session.
Yes.
And I think we have a good tool here.
Yes, it's going to be great. Some of the things we'll be covering, and I'd like you to demonstrate some things here. I know you play in many different styles. As we said, you've played with the greats. You've played with Adcock.
Yeah.
Of course, Don Reno.
Yes.
Name a few of the others.
I used to fill in for the Country Gentleman.
Okay.
And Chief Powhatan, I think a lot of people would know.
Yes, I know of him.
He had written the song Rosie, did very well. We played together for, I guess, 4 or 5 years.
And he's still playing strong.
No, he died.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he died.
Geez,
yeah.
that must have been fairly recently.
It wasn't too long ago. But he was a tremendous rhythm guitar player and just a great bluegrass musician. I saw him when I was a child one time. My parents took me down to Richmond, and Chief was putting on the show, and then years later I got to pick with him. So that was exciting, and of course got to play with Mac Wiseman and Bill Harrell, and of course Don Reno and I, we used to do twin banjos every time we'd be together on the show, and just got to play with some of the greatest, names in bluegrass. It was exciting.
Those memories and playing with your band in Japan.
Oh yeah.
And even people who you play with and you never see again or never hear of again.
Right.
It's all a treasure, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
It's a wonderful thing.
And every once in a while I'll get an email from someone that has found me on the computer, and they'll say, I remember you when you did this show, and it may have been 15 years ago.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I got a call from Florida one night from a fellow who...
And you never see again or never hear of again.
Right.
It's all a treasure, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
It's a wonderful thing.
And every once in a while I'll get an email from someone that has found me on the computer, and they'll say, I remember you when you did this show, and it may have been 15 years ago.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I got a call from Florida one night from a fellow who he was at the time a beginner mandolin player, and there was some other people, and I would invite him to come in to jam with us, and it was so neat because it was over 15 years later. He called me up. He was putting on a festival. He said, I remember the time that you let us all come in and play with you. He said, and you made us feel like we were all Bill Monroe. He said, but see, there's something about this music. It's just, there's a great courtesy that you want to share with other people, and teach people. I love to help somebody and show them. I have people come up and ask me, how did you do that lick? I just love that. The young kids or old, it doesn't matter. And I think that's the neat thing about bluegrass music. It's such a down-to-earth music.
Well, I got a report on Billy Lee's handling of new musicians, let's say, beginners, Nimrods, whatever you want to call them. You put on a demonstration or a what do you call it?
A clinic.
Clinic.
Yeah.
At the Cabin Fever Pickin' Party this past year.
Yes.
And one of our friends who was a beginning banjo student went down there and was really thrilled and amazed at the way you dealt with novices, the way you encouraged them, and the way your delivery. So, guys, to me, the sign of a real musician is the way he treats beginners.
Oh yeah.
Because if you go up to somebody and ask for advice or help, and they kind of shoo you away, go find somebody else.
Exactly.
Because that ain't what it's all about.
That's not what
it's come in and sit. But it's such a great thing to see a beginner.
Oh, I love it.
The light bulb goes on, even if it's a simple thing.
Oh yes.
And they go home and they work on that, and it's going to take them places.
Oh, I love that. And then I always felt this way, that there's always going to be someone that knows something I don't know, and that I'll find that more and more as I get older. But I figured if I can show them what I know right now, someday they'll know something I won't, and they'll be able to show me back.
Well, I'm at the point now my son knows more than I do, and that's scary, Billy, let me tell you. Could you, I've seen you do this. You performed for us at the Opry. Mm-hmm. We've jammed with you a little bit, and we filmed your video. But some of the sounds you get out of this instrument, and I know that you use a lot of full chords, movable chords. You can play in any key without a capo. I've seen you do it.
Yeah, if I have to, I will.
Yeah. And a little bit of what you do there, and some of these sounds, like you said, the pedal steel sound and the Reno sound. What is that? A little bit of a definition for the folks who might be watching this who don't know what the Reno sound is, the Adcock sound. Okay. I think that would really be educational for us.
Well, I think every banjo player has his signature style. You know, like Eddie Aycock, he did a lot of this pedal steel type stuff. That would be like an Adcock style. Reno, he did a lot of double string with the thumb. That was one of his trademarks, was to be able to play the double string.
Would he put that into runs also?
He could. I mean, he could do something like that.
Okay.
And that, you know, he did a lot of single string stuff too. You know, and stuff like that. Ralph Stanley, he played a straighter style, kind of a low. Alan Shelton, he was a great banjo player. Had such a great hop and bounce to his music. Bounce to his music, you know, and of course there was Sonny Osborne, just a tremendous banjo player, just a lot of nice stuff he did. That one lick I was talking about earlier, you know, it's so simple today, but it was so hard to get. I was trying to make it harder than it really was.
Okay,
you know?
which one? Do that one more time.
Yep. That sounded so hard to me, and it was really simple, and I was trying to make it harder than it was, but I worked for months just trying to get that as a beginner. But you know what's the neat thing today is, you know, there's so many people out there that you can see. I mean, we have these great bluegrass festivals, we have the Cabin Fevers, and just different places that you can go, and you know, it's a lot easier than when I was coming up, when the only other banjo player around was my uncle, and I mean, he was still a beginner banjo player, even though to me he was great. You know, and
you know what we found over the years? You go anywhere with a banjo and a guitar.
Oh yeah.
If you only know 3 songs, you're a musician.
That's right.
I mean, people love it.
Oh,
it's a great thing. And if you know the basics, there again, you can hook up with somebody like Billy Lee, and if you know it's in the key of G and it's probably only got 3 chords in it,
oh yeah.
No matter what you're doing.
Right.
Somebody can play along.
Oh yeah, that's so important. You know, I really think something that people should learn. They should learn to look at a guitar player and know what chord he's playing in. Because if you already know the chords on your instrument, you can just kind of follow the guitar, and if he changes from G to C, you can just change with him. And if you know some of the basic just rolls, you know, you can just follow just along with it. See, I'm just going this one simple roll.
And you won't be thrown out of too many jam sessions for doing that properly.
You won't.
Yeah.
You won't. And as long as you can keep timing, timing is so important, as you know. I mean, in everything. And
I don't think there's anything worse than to be in a jam session and have a big dreadnought guitar right behind you.
Right.
And the poor person playing it cannot keep time.
Oh, I know. And that gets to be pretty rough.
That discipline is so important to be able to. Just a boom chuck. Boom chuck.
But you know, no matter what level you're at, you can find a jam session with people that can play at that level.
Yes.
I mean, that's the neat thing. We played, you know, with people that were just starting out, and then, you know, all of a sudden some of the other pros would be picking. We'd have a jam session out in the field, and Del McCory and I were sitting out in the field years ago jamming together. And it's just so neat to do that kind of stuff.
I know Patrick and I years ago used to go to the spring thing put on by the Philadelphia Folk Song Society. And Roger Sprung was a fixture there.
Yes.
And we used to go to his jam sessions.
Right.
And this guy's a phenomenal banjo player. I'm sure you've met him over the years.
Yes, I have.
He can do all kinds of crazy things. And we would just sit and look at each other and say, what the heck is he doing? Right. But then a few years later, you get to a level where you know that then you can, you know, I can play that. Sure. I can join in there.
Exactly.
And that's part of the game. It's part of the excitement of it.
You know what's so neat? Every time I pick this banjo up, I try to learn something new. every single time, and you'll never run out of ideas and new things to learn.
Mm-hmm.
That is so exciting to me. You know, it challenges you every single time, and you should be challenged. If you want to go to that next level, you want to challenge yourself and try to learn different music, you know, and it's like single string stuff, you know. Stuff like that, you know, that takes a lot of practice to learn that stuff. But I just love that kind of stuff.
Yes, and if you enjoy it, if your banjo is something you truly like having in your lap,
oh yeah,
it's not bad work.
No,
it's fun. It's making music.
I'll tell you, you know, when I was in Taiwan, there was this minister at the church there that they had on the bass, and he was a classical mandolinist. And it was so neat because he and I became good friends, and he taught me how to play Exodus on the banjo, which was kind of neat. Just stuff like that, and that was so neat. He and I would get up and just play for hours, but he was a classically trained mandolinist,
Mm-hmm.
knew nothing about bluegrass, but yet we were able to become friends and share, and I learned a lot from him.
Common language.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. So much fun.
Now, I noticed while you were demonstrating those different sounds
Yes.
on the banjo, your hand is moving up and down your,
Oh, yeah.
your neck. There are different areas give a different
Oh, it
sound
does.
with the picks.
Hear how sharp that is? And then you move it up here. And sometimes I'll put just the heel of my hand here on the bridge to mute it. And it just mutes it.
Now, the video you shot for us
Yes.
Takes people through the beginning phases
That's
of
right.
being a banjo
Yes.
player. And what I got out of it, watching it and working with it, was that the rolls and the techniques will lead you into any style you want to play.
Oh, yes.
You can go to Scruggs, Adcock, Reno, Cox, whatever you want to do,
Right.
and develop your own sound
Yes.
and style.
I tried to keep it very basic on the beginner's level. I just more or less wanted people to get started on the banjo and get a good feel of how to play a song.
Mm-hmm.
And we chose one song, and well, there's a couple on there, one that I had written, but I just wanted them to be able to play one song, because I'll tell you, once you get the first one down, you know, all of a sudden it's easier
The
to do.
light goes on.
I'm telling you. And it gets exciting.
Yeah.
And you know, we kept it pretty simple. You know, I threw a little bit of stuff in there just to challenge them.
Well, you know, we forget when you've been playing for 20 years
Yes.
how difficult it is to get your brain to coordinate all these things
Oh, yeah.
that you
Oh,
have to do.
Oh yes.
And we tell people it's easy. Well, yeah, it is after you've done it 1,000 times.
Well, that's true. I mean, practice, practice, practice. Nothing's going to ever take the place of practice.
Yeah.
I mean, here I am. I'm the MC of my band, so I'll be playing along and thinking about what I'm going to say next. But I put so many hours of practice in that I can actually carry on a conversation with someone and be playing at the same time.
Yes.
Because all of a sudden you've trained yourself to do it without thinking.
Yes.
And that's really a good thing.
And we encourage people to sing when they play.
Oh, that's a good thing. Sure.
Because that it forces your brain to get more multitasking.
Oh, it does. It
working,
does. Yes.
going along.
I just love it.
Now this is really a beautiful sounding banjo. It's a Deering, is it not?
Yes, it is.
How long have you been playing this one?
Well, about 7 years.
Okay.
And my wife bought me this as a wedding gift.
You lucky guy.
In more ways than one.
I've met your wife. She's a wonderful lady.
She is. She's absolutely lovely. But I had played it so hard, I had really beat it up. You can see I put some miles on the thing, but I wore out the frets, and it needed some work done. So, as a matter of fact, one of the people that are members of the Funky Seagull team.
He's our distributor.
Yeah. And his daughter did the work for me, and I was so thrilled when I got it back, because it had that sound that it had when it was new, you know, the sound that I was looking for. And the way she set it up, I was just thrilled. I mean, I sat in her shop for an hour just playing it because I didn't want to put it down to leave.
I see you've got a compensated bridge.
Yes.
Is that a Shub or a Grover? Or?
You know, I don't even know. It's a Grover.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what you use light strings or mediums?
Well, I use the kind that's right in between the two. They're the J.D. Crow GHS.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I use, and they're kind of right in between the light and the medium.
Now,
I found the light are too easy for me, and
Yeah.
the medium are just a little too strong.
I was playing your banjo there when we were trying to work out Wildwood Flower a little bit, and the action on that thing is phenomenal.
Oh, it is.
Oh man.
Oh, it is. It's.
You don't even know there's strings
I know.
under your fingers
I know.
when you're playing.
I absolutely love the banjo. I must have played 100 banjos before I picked this one up, and as soon as that tone caught my ear, and that's what I was looking for.
Well, when you attack it close to the bridge,
yes,
it goes right through you.
Oh, it cuts.
And then when you move up and doing those like the blues licks,
sure.
it just kind of hung.
Oh yeah.
You know, it stayed a while.
Oh, I know.
It didn't
I
go
love
away.
it.
So it's
just,
really
I love everything about it. I mean, it's just
nice sound and a well set up instrument, whether it's a banjo or a guitar or whatever, really responds.
Oh, it does. What I love about this, Pat, is it just grabs the microphone, and you know, it just seems like it just reaches out and pulls the mic to it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I was looking for. If someone would just eat the microphone out, because if you're not heard on stage,
you're just in the gang.
You're in the gang, and you're not going over.
Well, that certainly does put out some beautiful sound. But I know that even if you had an old Silvertone, we would still hear the same wonderful music. But it sure helps to have a responsive instrument.
Does. It does. But again, nothing's going to take the place of those hours of practice
Yes.
that you're going to spend.
There's no magic bullet, is there?
No. You have to do it.
Now, I know you have a new band you formed up.
Yes.
Mason-Dixon
The
Grass.
Mason-Dixon Grass, yes. It's my band. It's just new personnel. And we're very excited. We just put out our latest CD is Springtime on the Brandywine, which is the title song, and I had written that song. It's an instrumental. Just a nice, simple instrumental. As a matter of fact, I've tabbed out the first part of that for the video that we did.
Yeah.
And then what we've done is added a new member, a new lead vocalist, and a tremendous singer, and he plays the bass for us. As a matter of fact, he has my old banjo that I had before I got Deering here. Yeah.
Now, what is your old banjo? What did you?
It was an RB250 that my uncle, he had bought it. And
wow.
When he gave me the Silvertone, and years later he sold it to me, and I played it for 30 years out on stage, you know, and all over the world. As a matter of fact, 4 different countries that banjo went for me to play, and it's still a great sounding banjo, and love it. And it's so neat that the fellow that owns the banjo now plays bass for us in our band. So
it's a small world, isn't it?
It's a small world.
Well, I've seen you in action, and the night you performed at the Eastern Shore Opry is one of the most memorable shows that we ever put on there. And the way you handle an audience and this instrument and your band. People think it's easy being a front man. No, it ain't. It's a lot of work.
But it's a lot of fun.
Yes.
You know, because we truly love the people out there. And that's what makes it so neat, is that the people see us having such a good time.
Well, you know, the people who came to the Opry were not bluegrass fans.
I know.
These were people who wanted to be entertained.
Yes. Well,
and they wanted good music.
Exactly.
They left bluegrass fans.
Yeah.
But all of the fine acts we brought there, from Claire Lynch right down through Bob Paisley, the people didn't know who they were.
Right.
They just knew that they were great musicians,
sure.
entertaining them,
they are.
and having fun. And that people still talk about the show you guys put on.
Well, thank you.
So it was really
that was
something.
a lot of fun. To tell you the truth, that was one of the highlights of my career, is playing down there at the Opry.
Thank you.
That was just. You guys run such a top shelf organization, and you know, we really appreciate it.
We wanted the bands to feel like they were part of something, not just a what do you call it, something that you buy.
One of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We wanted them to feel like they were really part of something, and it worked out very well.
Right.
We made a lot of really good friends there that we still are
I
in
can see
contact
why.
with today.
I can see why. You know, I still have people come up to me and talk about the Opry that night, and some of the crazy jokes that I told that
Yep,
night. You know?
yep. We won't get into that. No. What I'd like you to do, you mentioned your springtime on the Brandywine.
Yes.
I'd like you to give a few words of encouragement, advice to new musicians, whether it's banjo or
Sure.
harmonica, who cares?
Right.
But about learning the basics and the road ahead, and what a great world it is out there of festivals, of shows, of jam sessions. Sure. And maybe just play a passage or two out of your springtime on the Brandywine.
Okay. Sure.
We will, of course, put in the magazine there where folks can contact you, your website, your address, okay, where you can get Billy Lee's album, Springtime on the Brandywine, the newest one. Also, don't forget, Billy Lee is our bluegrass banjo instructor. He has done a basic beginner CD-ROM for us, and that's available right now at www.funkyseagull.com. We are also going to have an intermediate and then an advanced. And when you hear this man play and you've already seen what he can do with these different sounds, there's an awful lot to learn.
Oh.
And you can't learn it from one book or one session. You've got to get out there and experience it. Take the basics and then run with them.
That's right.
But maybe a few words about basics to new musicians, and then a few demonstration of your song there, Springtime on the Brandywine. Yeah. And then we'll let you get back to your camper down at Chincoteague, and thanks so much for coming by and visiting us in our home here in Crisfield.
It's been a real pleasure to be here, and it's a real pleasure to work with Funky Seagull Productions too, and it's exciting.
It is.
It is exciting, and
it's kind of scary, but it's exciting.
It's kind of scary, but you know, I look for great things out of the company, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. All right, well, I really do thank you, Pat and Patrick, for having me down here, and you said to just give a few words to beginners, and the thing of it is, there's nothing that's going to take the place of practice. Learn the basics, you know, learn your chord structures, and then on the video that I have out, there's some basic rolls that's going to get you started. There are exercises and stuff like that. And go with other musicians. Listen to all the music, all the different types of music that you can listen to, and just be around musicians. Listen to it and listen to it, because if it gets inside of you, then it's going to translate into these fingers. And you get your mind thinking like that, and then the mind connects to the fingers, and it just all works as one. I had written this song, it's just a little 2-chord instrumental that I put together. It just had such a nice, sweet melody that all the members of the band wanted to name our CD after it. So. And we have the first part here tabbed out on our instructional video. So here's Springtime on the Brandywine.